Speaking of cool games, Matthew, we've been checking out Tom Clancy's The Division Resurgence, the aptly named Tom Clancy's The Division Resurgence. There's a new Division game that came out in 2026, but it is not out on consoles. It's out on mobile phones. We've been playing. This came out March 31st, so it's the newest game of the bunch. It's out on iOS and Android. It's free to play. It's essentially The Division, like for all intents and purposes. You know, I've only played a couple of hours of it and done a few missions, but my top level sort of thoughts on it are like, yeah, like they have taken sort of the console experience of The Division and distilled it onto just in a mobile format, which I think is sort of commendable in and of itself. Matthew, what do you think of it so far?
I'm not super far into it either. It sounds like maybe I've played about the amount that you have, which is that I actually just finished the like intro missions before you get to the open world. So like I've been introduced to all the mechanics, gone through a couple boss fights, and I've kind of been like let loose a little bit. So I haven't really seen just how open the open world is yet. But yeah, I mean, I think at a high level, it seems like The Division. I mean, I think, just looking back to start with here, The Division, I think has, The Division 1 holds up very well. I think like looking back, by the way, 2016, I was looking back, like kind of an underrated year in gaming. If you look at it, I think a lot of the games that were released that year aged really well.
Uncharted, Overwatch, Doom, the original Doom, Doom 2016 rather. Yeah, it was a good year.
Dishonored 2, Deus Ex, Mankind Divided. It was
and the original solid. Division, which I played a lot of when it first came out, and I had my fun with it. I know it's kind of easy to sort of dunk on Ubisoft these days, but like those the Division 1 and the Division 2 are really good open world shooters, and they've maintained a really strong audience through over the years.
They have good campaigns too. Like their linear missions that they're taking you through are fun as well. Like they take you to the, they're very, especially that first one, like the winter in New York, like the sense of place was super strong in that one. I really liked the feeling of that. Like it had a very strong ambiance about it. Right at Christmas time, when the flu broke out. Just very distinctive. I mean, even all these years later, I still remember exactly how it felt to like run around in that world. And this Division 2 wasn't quite as successful in that regard, but was still a good game. And I mean, I think my early impressions of this are that it seems like they've managed to capture most of the mechanical trappings of the Division to bring it to mobile. I mean, it goes back to New York. Like it's not a reboot, but it's like a parallel story to the first one. I'm not sure that the like story is going to be anything to write home about, but yeah, early impressions is that, it seems like it's had some care put into it.
Yeah, I was going to bring up the fact that it's takes place in New York, set around the time as the first game. Like, I mean, really, like that's sort of the big thing that stood out to me so far in the early going is that they are really going for evoking the same sense that they were, in the first game of just trying to make things feel as close to the outbreak as possible. Like I said, same location as that first game, so you kind of have that connection as well. I mean, I think overall, it's a good idea to tie it to the original game and sort of get people in. Overall, just zooming out on just from this game specifically, I am really fascinated and curious about just a lot of these high profile AAA games and franchises making the jump to mobile, right? So you've got this, there's Destiny Rising, there's, Diablo Immortal, like a lot of these sort of big AAA franchises you're starting to now see pop up on mobile. And, it's interesting to see, obviously this, I don't know. I don't know if I've got a question from this, but like, I think it's just more like, it's interesting to look at games like this being made and emphasis on like these games being on mobile, and seeing that in comparison or in conjunction with sort of some of the mass layoffs that you're seeing and a lot of the doom and gloom around the console space. It almost seems like, we're sort of starting to set the ground for a future where a lot of these games, ones, at least the ones that require, like an audience and or run like a live service. I think you're just going to see those pop up and be the primarily playable on mobile now. What do you make of that, Matthew? What do you make of just sort of like the shift to mobile overall for these kind of games? And do you think the Division works in that regard, like the Division Resurgence specifically?
I do agree that it's interesting. I think if you look at the types of games that are being ported to, or not being ported necessarily, but are seeing releases on a mobile platform, they are all games that maybe aren't explicitly live service, but can be altered to include live service elements. I think maybe the Division is like the least live servicey of the ones you mentioned there. And that part, like the monetization part for this game, is going to be super interesting to me. So like comparing this to like Diablo Immortal, I don't play a ton of mobile games. Diablo Immortal is one that I've stuck with. The monetization in that game is terrible. Like you just, the only way to do it, or to play that game and not like tear your hair out at the monetization, is to just ignore the PvP elements of it, which is where the pay to win stuff comes in for the most part. It doesn't, and so like, and that's, a lot of these mobile games are aimed at different demographics than the console games are. So like, typically like in like China or like, in Asia more generally, you get more mobile players who are more willing to spend money there, or on those types of games, I should say, which has sort of, from anecdotally, from what I've seen in Diablo Immortal, that's held true for that as well. As far as the Division, I mean, it seems like the monetization here is mostly cosmetic. At least that's what they're saying. Yeah. I'm not far enough in yet to see if that's true or not myself. Mm-hmm. From what I've read online, it seems like there may be some ways that you can buy things that kind of skirt around the only cosmetics label, but it can't be any worse than Diablo Immortal is. So I think if they adhere to any kind of moral principles here at all, it'll be an improvement.
Yeah, I haven't seen too much of the monetization either, and I kind of go into these games with sort of a worst case scenario type of mentality as well. So I also have been playing Diablo Immortal. I picked it back up recently, and I generally avoid the store menu just because I know that I know who's making it. And in this case, I think there's some of that as well, where like, the battle pass is a little bit in your face here. I think that's kind of just, how these games are made anyway. But yeah, I mean, I think it is interesting because, we're talking about like console prices rising and, the RAM crisis and all of these things that are essentially making like traditional console gaming like just less and less accessible as the generation wages on, that I almost wonder if you see games like this start to pick up and gain more of an audience. And even beyond existing AAA franchises, there's even games like Where the Winds Meet and obviously Genshin Impact, these mobile / like PC hybrid or games. So I think you're starting to see those crop up a little bit more. And so I think as you see more people get priced out of just like the regular like console market, I think this might be like the alternative as opposed to something like a Roblox.
100%. I mean, the mobile sort of gaming and monetization explosion, I think we're past the peak of that. But as Ubisoft was canceling and consolidating all kinds of studios and projects and all of that over the past couple of years, this game was originally announced in 2022 and was supposed to debut in 2024, but kept getting delayed. There's a reason why, amidst all that, they didn't cancel this and they kept developing it, because they know that the possibility, like the bang for your buck, like what the amount of money they can make off of this game, given the costs of development, are quite high if it hits. And so it behooves them to focus in on that and see what they can get out of the mobile market. I think you're spot on in that, like as the PC hardware gets more unattainable, people will go to other solutions. I don't know that, like, do I think somebody who, is super into like PC RTS games is gonna like convert to being a mobile gamer just because they can't increase the RAM on the computer? No, but I think it's more like on the front end, like the entry costs for teenagers or younger who who are just starting to find the gaming hobby, and even worse, I mean, there's a whole other thing to be said for, like, gambling and other kinds of stuff like that. So it can get quite seedy. So, but that's a whole other conversation. But I mean, I think this is not the last game of this kind that we're going to see that comes from a bigger, traditionally AAA console PC studio.
Yeah. How does it, I mean, speaking of that, I mean, how does it play for you? Are you using touch controls? Are you using a controller? Does it play well?
It plays pretty well. I mean, like, I've been using the touch controls. I want to connect a controller because I think that's definitely going to be the superior experience.
I'm having a hard time with the touch controls, but it is pushing me to look into a controller as well.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I've been playing on an iPad, so I have not seen it on a phone sized device. I imagine that would be very difficult because there's a lot of buttons on that screen for you to click or accidentally click when you're trying to do something else. But in defense of that, it feels like the full Division experience. Like, there's no Division mechanic that they have left out here. Like, you have everything down to your, like, your technical abilities, like to throw turrets or pull out your ultimate or whatever. It's all there, and the stats on your gear, it doesn't seem to be like filed down at all, really. Far it seems to be full-fledged.
I agree. Yeah, like, it's the movement, the cover, like, all of that stuff feels true to the original games. I just the touchscreen controls on a phone specifically make it tough. So I am gonna invest, I think, in a like a grip controller type device, mainly because I just find myself playing more games on my phone. So why not? But yeah, I think that'll sort of lead me to play more of it. I'm curious. I think it'll stay on my phone for a while, but I don't know if it'll keep me invested long term. So I'll be interested to see.
Yeah, it'll come down to like what the dailies are, right? Like, once you've experienced the story that they've released so far, what are you doing? I think the thing that plagued the original Division for me, I did stick with that into the end game for a while, but the problem that it butted up against was that enemies just became bullet sponges. Like, you could have excellent weapons, but the enemies were just tanks regardless, and it felt like you were unloading clip after clip into them without any kind, like, there was just nothing else you could do. So
I've seen that in a couple of instances where, like, I was under leveled, and it's like, oh yeah, like, these guys can be kind of bullet spongy.
Yeah, and it's one thing if you're under leveled, but like in an end game scenario, especially in like a mobile game, we'll have to see if that becomes an issue. Because I think if that is kind of like the ongoing experience with it, it's probably not going to keep me coming back after I finish the story stuff. But I do want to see how they how they deal with the open world New York. This thing has the Dark Zone mode as well.
Yeah, I want to try that out, and I'm curious to, with how the limitations of touch controls, like just how it. But yeah, I mean, like I have no doubts that it's the full Dark Zone experience, given what I've seen so far.
Yeah, I agree. So yeah, I mean, I so far I'm mildly impressed by what they put together here. Yeah, I'm gonna keep playing it.
Tom Clancy's The Division Resurgence. What? Don't you guys have phones? It's on iOS and Android. It's free to play. Download it. Play it now. Try it out. Matthew, this has been real fun talking with you about video games, but we are going to have to call it tonight. It's been real fun. Don't forget, guys, you guys can follow us on whatever social platform and listen to us on whatever service that you get your podcasts on. Just find us at timekillerspod.com. Don't forget that you can submit your questions, your thoughts, your hot takes over at timekillerspod.com/AMA. And other than that, we love you guys, and we will see you guys on the next one.
Peace.